Welcome back, everybody. Today we're going on a deep dive into La Niña, and more specifically, its impact on India.
Yeah.
This is something that comes up again and again when we're talking about the UPSC exams, and it's really crucial to understanding global climate patterns.
Absolutely. To really get La Niña, we need to start with ENSO,
ENSO.
the El Niño Southern Oscillation.
Right.
So think of it like a climate seesaw.
Okay.
You've got the Pacific Ocean on one side and the atmosphere on the other.
Okay.
And they're constantly pushing and pulling against each other. And La Niña and El Niño, they're the opposite ends of this seesaw.
Okay. So when we're talking about La Niña,
Yes.
we're talking about that tilt towards cooler than usual sea surface temperatures in the Pacific.
Exactly. And it might seem like something happening far away, but trust me, what happens in the Pacific doesn't stay in the Pacific.
Right.
It has ripple effects all over the globe.
Okay, so for our listeners who are really focused on the UPSC exams, why should they care about what's happening in this seemingly far-off ocean?
Think about it. India's economy, agriculture, water resources, they all depend on the monsoon.
Yeah.
And guess what influences the monsoon?
I think that's so.
You got it. Especially La Niña.
And we've seen this in recent years, haven't we?
Oh, absolutely.
2020, 2021, 2022, we saw pretty good rainfall thanks to La Niña conditions.
Strong monsoon, full reservoirs, agriculture thriving.
Right.
And then we had 2023, an El Niño year.
Oh, yeah.
And things were completely different.
Yeah, not so good.
Below average rainfall, intense heat waves.
Yeah.
It was a tough year.
So this back and forth between La Niña and El Niño,
Right.
it's a pretty big deal for India.
Absolutely.
It's not just theoretical, it has real-world implications.
Huge implications. And this is something UPSC aspirants need to be aware of.
Okay, so let's get into specifics about La Niña.
Okay.
What kind of impact does it have on India, especially in the winter?
So one of the things you'll notice is a difference in temperature. North India gets colder nights, but the days are a bit warmer than usual.
Interesting. So it's kind of a mixed bag when it comes to temperature.
Yeah, it is.
But what about air quality?
Ooh, that's a good question.
Does La Niña have any impact on that?
It does, but it's complicated.
Okay.
La Niña can bring higher wind speeds,
Okay.
which helps to clear out pollution.
That's good.
But at the same time, it can lower something called the planetary boundary layer height.
The what?
The planetary boundary layer height.
Okay, that sounds intimidating.
It's actually pretty simple.
Okay.
Think of it as an invisible lid over a city.
Okay.
And La Niña can make this lid lower, trapping pollutants closer to the ground.
So it's like a tug of war
Exactly.
between the wind trying to clean the air and this lowered lid holding the pollution in.
Exactly. So the overall impact on air quality, it's not always clear-cut.
Okay, fascinating.
Yeah.
Now, there's been a lot of talk about the unusual delay in La Niña forming this year. Typically, it's established by monsoon season, right?
Yeah, that's the usual pattern. But
Yeah.
2024 has been a bit strange.
Yeah.
We haven't seen the consistent cooler temperatures that signal a full-blown La Niña.
So what's the holdup?
Well, remember the Oceanic Niño Index?
The ONI?
Yes. It's the key indicator we use to officially declare a La Niña event.
Right.
We need 5 readings in a row of -0 0.5 degrees Celsius or lower.
Okay.
Right now, we're hovering around -0.3.
We're close.
We're close, but not quite there yet.
So it's a waiting game.
It is.
Well, let's say La Niña does show up, maybe early 2025.
Interesting.
What could that mean for India?
Well, if it develops, then we could see some interesting effects.
Like what?
Colder winters in North India, for one,
Okay.
and potentially a very strong monsoon season in 2025.
Which would be great news for agriculture and water resources.
Absolutely. Bumper crops, replenished reservoirs, a real boost to the rural economy.
Okay, so that's all good news.
It is.
But there's another piece of this puzzle we need to consider. It's climate change.
Right.
How does that factor into all of this?
There's growing evidence that climate change might be messing with the swings between La Niña and El Niño,
Okay.
making them more frequent and potentially more extreme.
So you're saying climate change could make these climate seesaw swings wilder?
That's what the science is suggesting.
Okay.
Imagine the potential consequences of a supercharged La Niña. Harsher winters, even heavier rainfall, and maybe more unpredictable monsoons.
Wow.
Yeah, it's something to think about.
Okay, so we have this potential La Niña situation developing,
Right.
and climate change potentially amplifying the whole ENSO cycle.
Exactly.
And the stakes are particularly high for India.
Oh, absolutely.
where so much depends on the monsoon.
It all comes back to the monsoon.
So keeping a close eye on Enzo
Yes.
and understanding all its little quirks.
It's crucial.
It's not just for exams, but for planning a more resilient future.
Couldn't agree more.
Okay, before we get carried away with all the potential drama here,
Yeah.
let's break down why La Niña matters so much for India.
Okay.
We've touched upon agriculture.
Mm-hmm.
What about other sectors?
Well, let's think about water resources.
Okay.
More rainfall means reservoirs are replenished,
Wow.
easing water stress across the country.
Okay.
This is crucial, especially with climate change projections suggesting we're going to have more water stress in the future.
So La Niña could be a real asset in terms of water management.
It really could.
What about energy?
Ah, yes, energy.
We briefly talked about hydropower earlier.
Yes.
Could you expand on that a little?
So hydropower is a significant source of clean energy in India,
Right.
and it depends heavily on rainfall.
Mm-hmm.
Increased rainfall, thanks to La Niña, can lead to higher hydropower generation,
Okay.
reducing our dependence on fossil fuels.
So we're talking about potential benefits for agriculture, water resources, even energy.
It's a lot to consider.
It seems like La Niña, or at least the possibility of La Niña,
Mm-hmm.
is a pretty big deal for India.
It is.
It really is.
And while we wait to see how this La Niña situation plays out,
Yeah.
it raises a really important question.
I'm all ears.
Considering that climate change could make these ENSO events more intense,
Yeah.
what proactive measures can India take to mitigate the risks and also leverage the potential benefits of La Niña, especially in areas like agriculture and water management?
That is a fantastic question,
Thank you.
and one that really gets to the heart of understanding climate patterns and their impact.
It does,
It's not just textbook knowledge.
right?
It's about using that knowledge to make informed decisions for a more sustainable future.
Absolutely. Connecting the dots between science and policy, global phenomena, and local impacts.
Okay, everyone, we are going to pause here for a moment.
Okay.
And we'll be back in just a bit to continue our deep dives into this really important topic.
Looking forward to it.
We'll explore the global impacts of La Niña
Yes,
and dig even deeper into the implications for India,
for sure.
especially for those getting ready for the UPSC exams.
Absolutely. And in the meantime, if you are enjoying this deep dive,
Yes.
do us a favor and hit that subscribe button and give us a like.
It really helps other people find the show, and we appreciate the support.
We really do.
We'll be back soon.
Stay tuned. Welcome back, everyone. Before the break, we were talking about La Niña's impact on India.
Yeah.
But it's important to remember this is a global phenomenon.
Right.
What happens in the Pacific has repercussions all over the world.
Okay, so it's easy to get caught up in what it means for us here in India,
Mm-hmm.
but La Niña is part of a much larger climate system.
It is.
So what are some of the effects it has on other regions?
Well, let's take Africa, for example.
Right.
La Niña can actually make drought conditions worse in some parts of the continent,
Oh, wow.
putting a real strain on agriculture and water resources.
And that can have some serious consequences.
Absolutely.
Especially for regions that are already struggling.
It's a huge concern for food security
Right.
and people's livelihoods.
That's a pretty stark contrast to the generally beneficial effect on India's monsoon.
Yeah.
It really highlights how the impacts of La Niña can be so different
Right.
depending on where you are in the world.
Absolutely. And then there's the Atlantic Ocean.
Okay.
La Niña can actually contribute to increased hurricane activity there,
For more hurricanes.
more frequent and potentially more intense hurricanes.
Wow.
And that, of course, can lead to widespread damage and economic losses in coastal areas.
So La Niña is like fuel for hurricanes.
In a way, yeah.
That's a significant concern,
It is. It's good.
given the potential for devastation.
Absolutely.
And even in a country like the United States,
Mm-hmm.
La Niña has an impact, right?
It does. The southern states often see increased rainfall during La Niña years,
Okay.
which can lead to flooding
Right.
and other challenges.
So La Niña really is a global player.
A global player.
It influences weather patterns.
Mm-hmm.
It affects communities on multiple continents.
For sure.
It's a reminder that our planet's climate system is all interconnected.
Exactly. And the more we understand these connections,
Right.
the better prepared we'll be to respond to the challenges.
And maybe even find ways to harness the benefits.
That's the hope.
Okay, so we've talked about La Niña's global impact.
Yes.
But let's come back to India.
Okay.
If La Niña does develop early 2025,
Mm-hmm.
what are some of the implications for different sectors here in India?
Well, let's start with agriculture,
Okay.
a sector that is really tied to the monsoon.
Yeah.
A strong monsoon season,
Right.
fueled by La Niña,
Yeah.
could be a huge benefit for farmers across the country.
Okay.
Increased rainfall means better irrigation, healthier crops, and potentially higher yields.
That would be very welcome,
It would.
especially after the not-so-great rainfall we had in 2023.
Exactly.
It could help stabilize food prices and bring some relief to rural communities.
Absolutely. And the benefits extend beyond just the farm.
Okay.
A good harvest translates to improved food security for the whole nation.
Right.
And it can even boost our agricultural exports.
Yeah.
As a ripple effect.
A potential win-win
It is.
for farmers and the economy.
Exactly.
What about the impact on our water resources?
Well, more rain means replenished reservoirs, rivers, and groundwater levels,
Okay.
which is essential for meeting the needs of a growing population.
Right.
Especially in areas that are already facing water scarcity.
So La Niña could play a significant role in alleviating water stress.
It could, and this becomes even more important when we consider climate change projections.
Which suggest increasing water scarcity in the future.
That's right. So a strong monsoon could be a really crucial buffer
Yeah.
against those future challenges,
Okay.
enhancing our water security and building resilience against drought.
And what about the energy sector?
Yes,
We talked about the potential for increased hydropower earlier.
we did.
Could you elaborate on that a little?
Absolutely. Hydropower is a clean and renewable source of energy,
Hmm.
and India relies on it significantly.
Hmm.
More rain during a La Niña year means more water flowing through our hydroelectric dams,
Okay.
leading to a boost in electricity generation,
Right.
which in turn can help reduce our reliance on fossil fuels.
So contributing to a cleaner energy mix.
Exactly.
So La Niña could indirectly support India's transition to a more sustainable energy future.
It's a definite possibility.
That's great for the environment and our energy security.
Absolutely. And let's not forget the public health benefits.
Oh, right.
We know that El Nino years, like 2023, often bring those scorching heat waves,
Yeah.
which can have serious health impacts, especially for vulnerable populations.
Right.
La Niña, with its cooling influence,
Mm-hmm.
can help moderate temperatures, leading to more bearable summers
Okay.
and reducing those risks from extreme heat.
So it's not just about rainfall and agriculture.
It's not.
It's about the well-being of the entire population.
Absolutely. La Niña could offer some relief
Yeah.
from the intense heat we've been experiencing during these El Nino years.
So while we can't control these global climate patterns,
Right.
understanding them allows us to better anticipate the impacts,
Yes.
adapt, and even benefit from them,
Exactly. It's about working with nature's rhythms.
recognizing both the challenges and the opportunities.
Well said. And speaking of opportunities,
Yeah.
there's a fascinating aspect of La Niña's impact on India we haven't even touched on yet.
Oh,
Its influence on our coastal ecosystems.
okay. Tell me more about how La Niña affects our coasts.
So India has this vast and diverse coastline, home to all sorts of marine life.
Yeah.
And these intricate ecosystems,
Right.
these coastal regions, they're very sensitive to changes in ocean temperatures and currents, and La Niña can have a big impact on those.
So those cooler Pacific waters,
Yeah.
they can actually have a ripple effect all the way to India's shores.
Exactly. For instance, La Niña can affect the upwelling of nutrient-rich waters along the coast.
Upwelling.
Upwelling, it's basically a process where cold, nutrient-laden water from the depths rises to the surface.
Okay, and why is that important for coastal ecosystems?
Well, these nutrients, they're like a feast for phytoplankton.
Phytoplankton.
They're tiny plant-like organisms that form the base of the marine food web.
Okay.
More phytoplankton means more food for fish
Right.
and other sea creatures, which makes for a healthier and more productive ecosystem.
So La Niña can boost the productivity of our coastal waters?
It can.
That's good news for fisheries.
It can be, but we have to remember nature is complex.
Right.
There are always trade-offs.
Okay.
While increased nutrients are generally good, La Niña can also change the distribution of marine species.
Okay.
This can shift fish populations.
Which could be a problem.
It could, especially for fishermen who depend on specific species.
So it's a delicate balance.
It is.
La Niña can bring both benefits and challenges to coastal communities.
Exactly. It all depends on how these different factors interact.
Right. It's a good reminder that even events happening far away, like La Niña, can have a cascading effect on our environment and our lives.
It's true.
Okay, so we've covered a lot in this deep dive.
We have.
We've looked at La Niña's origins,
Yes.
its global impacts, and its effects on India, from agriculture and water resources
Right?
to energy and even coastal ecosystems.
It's a complex picture.
And as we move into the final part of our discussion,
Yes.
I want to emphasize how important it is to understand these climate patterns.
Absolutely. It's crucial.
Especially for anyone who wants to shape policy and contribute to a more sustainable future for India.
For sure.
Absolutely. Whether you're interested in agriculture, water management, disaster preparedness, or any field related to public service.
It all ties in.
Having a grasp of these global forces and their impacts is essential.
Couldn't agree more.
And for our UPSC aspirants listening,
Yes.
this understanding is invaluable.
It is.
It's not just about knowing the facts.
Right.
It's about analyzing complex systems, anticipating challenges, and coming up with solutions.
It's about thinking critically and applying your knowledge.
Exactly. And in our final segment,
Yes.
we're going to look at some key takeaways from this deep dive.
Okay.
And we'll explore what you, as a future policymaker, can do to prepare for a world increasingly shaped by these powerful climate forces.
I'm looking forward to it.
We'll be back in just a moment for the final part of our deep dive.
Sounds good.
Stick with us. Welcome back to the final part of our La Niña deep dive.
So we've covered a lot of ground.
We have.
From the basics of this climate phenomenon to its ripple effects on India and the world.
And for our listeners, getting ready for those UPSC exams,
Yes.
understanding these connections is so important.
Absolutely.
It's not just about memorizing the facts. It's about analyzing complex systems, seeing potential challenges, and proposing solutions.
Exactly. So let's take a moment here
Okay.
to distill some key takeaways from this deep dive and see how this knowledge can be applied practically.
What's the most important thing for our UPSC folks to understand about La Niña?
I think the most important thing to remember is this.
Yeah.
La Niña isn't just a weather event.
Okay.
It's part of a much larger climate system with interconnected effects that ripple across the globe.
So it's not enough to just know that La Niña can lead to a stronger monsoon.
It's not.
UPSC aspirants need to be able to connect that stronger monsoon to its impact on agriculture,
Yes.
water resources, energy, the economy,
Right.
even social dynamics.
It's all connected.
The whole system, right?
It is. For example, a strong monsoon might mean a really great harvest, which is amazing for food security.
But
it could also lead to challenges.
like what?
Storage and distribution issues.
Right.
Price fluctuations. Even crop damage if there's too much rain.
So it's about thinking about the good and the bad that comes with La Niña.
Exactly. It's about looking at both the opportunities and the challenges.
And that's where the ability to analyze and put all this information together becomes so crucial for the UPSC exam.
Could agree more.
Another key takeaway.
Yeah.
Climate change is likely to make La Niña's effects even stronger.
That's right.
More frequent, more intense, and maybe even more unpredictable.
It's a concern.
So the stakes are getting higher,
Higher?
and the need for proactive planning and adaptation?
It's becoming even more urgent.
It is.
And this is where policymakers are so important.
Right.
UPSC aspirants who get these climate dynamics, they're going to be better equipped to create policies that help India deal with climate change.
So let's say you are a future policymaker.
Okay.
You've got all this knowledge about La Niña.
I'm ready.
What are some concrete steps India could take to deal with the risks and make the most of the potential benefits?
Well, in agriculture, we could promote drought-resistant crops, invest in water-efficient irrigation, strengthen those crop insurance schemes.
So that helps with both floods and droughts.
Exactly.
And what about managing our water? Yeah, that's key.
La Niña can put a lot of rain,
Okay.
but also the risk of flooding.
Right, so we need to invest in water harvesting,
Okay.
improve how we manage our reservoirs, and develop early warning systems for floods.
So we're better prepared no matter what happens.
Exactly.
And we talked about the potential for more hydropower during La Niña years.
We did.
That's a real opportunity to boost our renewable energy, isn't it?
It is. We should invest in hydropower infrastructure,
Okay.
modernize our existing dams,
Yeah.
and create policies that really encourage clean energy.
So we're taking advantage of the good things La Niña might bring.
Exactly.
This is also practical and important.
It is.
It's clear that understanding La Niña isn't just some theoretical thing. It's about having the knowledge to make good decisions that can help shape a better future for India.
That's what it's all about.
And for our UPSC folks out there, I say embrace this knowledge.
Yeah.
Think critically.
And use it to become the kind of leaders who can tackle the challenges and seize the opportunities of a world that's always changing.
I love that.
Well said. That brings us to the end of our La Niña deep dive.
I hope you all enjoyed it.
We hope you found it informative, insightful.
And maybe even a little inspiring.
If you like this episode,
Yeah.
be sure to hit that subscribe button and share it with your friends.
Especially those on the UPSC journey.
We'll be back soon with more deep dives into topics that matter.
We will.
Until then, stay curious, keep asking those questions, and never stop learning.
See you next time.